Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. In today's video, let's talk about the wish list for 2024, right? We had a lot of new content come to Raid in 2023. I did a video about that actually around about Christmas time. But yeah, let's talk about what do I want to see this year. I've picked out 7 changes. I tried to keep it somewhat limited, or 7 things I want to see. So yeah, you think about 7 things right now. You can pause the video, think about it. Let's see if my wish list matches up with yours or what is different. I mean, let me know in the comments. I'd be very curious to see the main things that you guys would like to see. I can guess one. I might mention that at the end. I think you guys will mention that. Didn't quite make my list, but maybe I'll mention it definitely as a bonus option. I kind of thought about it after the 7. So let's go here. So the first thing I would love to see is very simple. Improvements to the rewards here of Iron Twins Fortress. I've seen a lot of people suggesting this since they've come in now and added in Chaos Dust, right, to Sand Devil Stage 25 as just a bonus thing you can get. I'd, by the way, like to see smaller amounts of this available through multiple stages so more people can get it. That'd be cool. But what's really good about this stuff is that it's a bonus, right? This is just something you sometimes get. I think it's an 8% chance to get some per run. As a bonus on top of your regular rewards. Makes sense to put that in for Iron Twins, right? Instead of these essences replacing your coins, hey, have the essences just be a bonus thing, an extra thing that you get. I mean, we could definitely see this stuff just improve a bit in general, right? Ascending champions have become just more important with the Cursed City, especially requiring that for some stages and making a big difference. Let's have it happen. Let's improve the rewards for Iron Twins. I think people are not particularly enthused by this content. Upping the rewards definitely helps. You've seen that, I think, in the last few days with Sand Devil and Phantom Shogun. Adding in the reroll mechanic has massively upped people's interest in it. I can confirm for you, but for me, it absolutely has. Like for me before, I was farming Sand Devil Stage 24. Since then, I'm on Stage 25 and farming like crazy. By the way, quick update on that. Essentially, what I've done is, due to some of your advice, actually dropped Ninja's speed to 178. I dropped his speed down and slightly dropped Godseekers. I think that's improved it a bit to 247. And also the problem is it's not a 100% team. It has a tiny chance to fail, which is obviously Godseeker isn't built with resistance, but what happens with it, just so you guys know, is, you know, she's got no resistance built at all. But if she resists the 3%, if she resists the decreased speed twice in a row, I think that will lead to a desync and ultimately to failure, run out of turns, I think, because Ninja will be revived at the wrong time. So yeah, I think this seems to have made it fairly, switching the speeds on them has made it more consistent. I think it failed maybe once since then. It has failed, but barely any at all. So I think that's a difference. I also did, to try and improve that as well, I removed Resurgent from her. I took that off just in case she does get crit and that Resurgent removes the decreased speed. That could also lead to failure. So doing that, I removed counterattack stuff as well to speed it up. Anyway, that's a side note, but just to follow on, kind of refining the team based off of your guys' advice and comments has actually been really fun, actually, for me, to be fair. So yeah, anyway, let's talk about Sand Devil. In fact, let's go back to Sand Devil. I've got my notes over here. Segue. Second thing I would like to see changed. Sand Devil. Obviously, you guys know I've mentioned it a couple of times. We spoke to the raid devs. It was sort of like an off-the-books conversation in terms of how they're feeling about the game. But one thing they did say, which stood out to me, was definitely that they are unhappy with Sand Devil, that they're looking at the stats and they see that most people that are doing Sand Devil are choosing to cheese it with Godseeker and Eerie. So guilty as charged, I am cheesing it. And for them, they are seeing that and they say, okay, there's a problem with the boss, right? If people are not choosing to engage with the boss and do it properly, right? If they're looking to cheese it, something has gone wrong here. So they're hopefully going to be changing Sand Devil. We'll see if that actually happens. Of course it might not. That was just something they said that they were thinking about and talking about. That's something I would love to see change, though. Basically nerf to Sand Devil, make it easier, essentially. I would like to see that. Again, I'm saying this now as someone, this team, by the way, with the changes, takes slightly over 2 minutes, right? So I'm perfectly happy farming this. Doesn't affect me anymore. I'm grand. I'm sorted, right? But I think to make this accessible to everyone, especially seeing as right now, stage 25 is so much in there. I don't like the boss. I think the boss is really awkward to play around the sleep. There's just too few champions that can play around it. It's too difficult to make it work. Godseeker cheese is just the most practical thing. So I definitely feel like this boss needs to be changed, basically needs to be nerfed. It needs to be made more accessible so that you can come in and do it with an actual reasonable team in a reasonable time. Like, in my opinion, it shouldn't be too, this is just a dungeon. It's something that you farm. Yes, it's late game, but still, you should be able to come in, you know, even if you're not crazy late game, even if you're mid game, you should probably be able to do a 5-minute run of stage 25. Like, it's pretty slow. Like, for me, a dungeon run needs to be like 2 minutes to be reasonable. Honestly, that's how I feel for me late game. Like, if your late game dungeon runs are like 3 or 4 minutes, it's like, that's just too slow. That's what late game is. It's speed farming the dungeons. But that's my thoughts on it, on farming the dungeons. Maybe people feel differently, but yeah. My number 2, I'd like to see Sand Devil more accessible for everyone. Number 3, this is something we know is almost definitely coming. Really looking forward to a further difficulty of the Cursed City, right? I'm saying this as someone that's not beaten all of Soulc Cross. We might actually come back and do stage 12 in another video. That's going to be very easy. And then these 3 stages are going to be very difficult for me, the last few. I actually think that some of these stages over here would be pretty doable. I'm really hard blocked by just not having the right champions, and that's fine. I don't really mind that. That's cool. It's a long-term thing to look for, and hopefully the next rotation where things switch up will be easier, but we'll see. Collecting champs became very important, and gearing them up and all that sort of stuff. So we'll probably give it another go. Not many days left, but I probably will give it another go, probably on Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, I'm looking forward to brutal difficulty. I think it would be fun. I actually think that Soulc Cross is actually a pretty decent level of difficulty, arguably too hard. I think some of these stages are arguably too difficult, actually. So I don't really want to see this difficulty pushed too much further, at least not yet. But I don't know, maybe they will push it further. What I'd love to see, though, is like Cobble Market. There's a lot of interesting bosses in there, and honestly, on hard difficulty for someone with my level account, this is extremely easy. So I'd actually like to see on like a brutal or a nightmare difficulty, whatever they happen to bring in. I wouldn't want Soulc Cross to be crazy much harder, but I'd love for Cobble Market to be brought up and the other zones, so that every zone has some nice challenges and is a more sort of even difficulty level. Like, I feel like the difficulty level on hard has been quite broad, right? Soulc Cross, compared, like the end of Soulc Cross compared to the start of Cobble Market, is an absolutely crazy difficulty spread. I'd like to see the higher difficulties maybe narrow that down and push it up a bit. But yeah, that's sort of my sort of vibes on that. Something I'm looking forward to. We know it is definitely coming, or almost definitely coming as well. Something I'm not sure is coming that they obviously revealed to us when Hydra came out. There was a roadmap. Hang on, let me get that roadmap. Hang on. All right, here we go. This is it. You might, if you were not around, you might not remember this. This was back from Raid, the official Raid, right? In December 2021, we had the Hydra release timeline. So like Hydra Clan Quest, that's in. Yeah, that's in. We had the introduction, the 4 difficulty levels. Phase 3 was a new Hydra head and a new difficulty level with improved rewards. We never got there. We launched with phase 1. We had phase 2. Phase 3, 4, and 5 basically disappeared. You know, it's been over 2 years now. It's not happened. So who knows? You know, this clearly seems to be something that was abandoned, probably because people found Hydra too difficult, right, at the start. Because I think it was too difficult at the start. I think the nerf they did to Hydra, that's why I mentioned for Sand Devil could be similar success. I think the nerf to Hydra was a massive success that made it much more accessible for a lot of people. Arguably, it is still too hard, but obviously, you guys know I do like Hydra. I would love to see us come back to this. I'd love to see another difficulty level with improved rewards, a new Hydra head, and then again moving forwards. You know, I think with the stronger champions coming to the game, there's constantly stronger champions like Newt. Like, that's massive for people, right? It's a huge deal, and obviously, you know, the Ascensions, Blessings, etc. Hydra is becoming more and more doable. I think that this sort of stuff could fit into the game pretty well and bring even more freshness to Hydra. It's something I would like to see. I know probably not everyone would, but personally, I would love to see this come back. So this definitely makes my list of most wanted things. That's number 4, is Hydra Road Map. Let's get back to it. I think that'd be great. Number 5 then, if I switch over here for a second, is over here. I just put up this poll just over an hour ago. Actually, let me refresh this page. Let's get the most up-to-date info. Here we go. 900 votes so far. Get your vote in. I'm curious to see how this will or will not change. Do you want to see more balanced changes in Raid in 2024? Okay, 2 hours ago, 900 votes so far. This did not go how I expected. So funny enough, and people saying no, they don't want to see more, is actually only 7% total. So 2% of you feel that the game is balanced just fine as it is. No real need to do it. 5% say, no, I don't want any balance changes. I'd rather the developers and like the budget for the game go into different types of content, right? Like, yeah, we could do it some balance, but it's not the most important thing. Probably wouldn't bother, which is kind of what Raid did for the end of 2023, right? To get the Cursed City out, they moved the developers off of content, off of balancing onto developing the new stuff so they could get it out in a good state on time, which they did, right? They succeeded, but it meant that we had no champion balancing for ages. So they did that, but most of you don't want that. Interestingly, 3% of you said yes, nerfing overpowered champions is the priority. So a very, very small number want to see that. This surprised me. Vast majority of you, 62% say yes, buffs and nerfs are needed. 29% said yes, but only buffs, no nerfs. So that's sort of the main split is between those two. I honestly expected this to be the other way around. I expected the big majority of people to say yes, only buff champions, no nerfs at all, and to see fewer people saying this. For me personally, I'm in the yes, buffs and nerfs are needed, like as needed. Obviously, you would prefer to see more buffs. That's more fun. But, you know, if a champion is obviously overpowered, instead of having to go in and buff, 800 other champions to balance things out, if there's one champion really overpowered, nerfing them down, it just makes sense, right? It's just, that's just how it works. So yeah, it's like if you've got a fence like with 100 different posts and one post is slightly too high, you lower the one that's slightly too high. You're not like, one post slightly too high, raise the whole fence, guys. Let's go. Come on, get all the work, man. Let's go. It's just sensible. So I'd like to see both. I can definitely understand the only buffs crowd because, as people point out, you could wait ages to finally get this champion you really want. It sucks then if they're nerfed, or especially if you spend lots of money. And this would be a concern, I'm sure, more for the developers who need to get that money, right? People spend a lot of money, get a champion, and then that champion is nerfed. That's a pretty big motivation to go, well, F you, I'm not playing this game anymore. Uninstall, try get refunds, whatever, that could happen as well. So it's tricky in this sort of game for nerfs to come in. I expect there's a very, very vocal, not minority, like big minority, or maybe a very vocal group even within this group that really hate nerfs. Like, it's funny, doing a poll can be good insight as well, because again, my perception from comments, because people are so vocally against nerfs, was that this would be a much bigger proportion than it is. But yeah, some people really, really hate nerfs, so it's always very, very tricky. I prefer to see smaller nerfs, bigger buffs. Personally, I think that some nerfs can be good and healthy for the game. And also, like I said, it's good to see that for dungeons and stuff, bosses as well. If the boss is too tough, it's okay to nerf it down. Again, don't want to see the bosses buffed too much. I prefer to see extra difficulty levels to make them harder if there's room for that. But making stuff more accessible, often good. Anyway, there we go. I would like to see, though, for me, I would definitely agree with the majority here. We certainly, at the very least, want to see lots of buffs to champions. We know that is coming, so keep it up. Let's have that rolling. Let's have some big changes come in. There's lots of champions that are really outdated at this point and could do with a new coat of paint. So that's number 5. Number 6, then, something I would like to see. I don't know if we can see it. No, I don't think we can really see it here, but like, you have this battle rules thing, right? In Live Arena. Something I would love to see in Live Arena, possibly even coming through into other forms of Arena as well. I'd love to see those other forms touched up. But I would definitely like to see some like limited time tournaments with cool rewards with specific battle rules. So this, would probably be something along the lines of the Cursed City stuff. So it might be like, only epics and rares, only from these factions, or only these specific factions for this week, or something like that. So some like really limiting restrictions. So you got to use a whole bunch of champions you might not otherwise use. Just get a bunch of your roster involved that you otherwise wouldn't, for some nice little rewards. Maybe even have it be just like fun cosmetic things more so than power. I don't know, but some fun sort of optional tournaments in here. I think that would be a really fun way to get Live Arena, more interesting. Like, yeah, I think that'd be fun to mix it up. Instead of just using the same champions all the time and seeing the same champions all the time, you'd have more variety. I think that'd be really cool. So that's something that I would love to see. I also would like to see the rewards improve. Like 35 Live Arena wins is just too much of a grind. It's just who can be arsed, right? That needs to go down. It needs to be more accessible, and they need to buff these as well. I think that stuff is coming, right? Like when you look at Zeal or you look at Impulse now, you compare that to Merciless. My God, Merciless is just so much better. So I think upgrades to these gear would be really nice as well. But yeah, just stuff to make Live Arena kind of more engaging and more interesting. I would like to see that. And then finally, the final thing I would like to see is something, and this would be a bigger sort of type of content. I've been playing like Warcraft Rumble on my phone. I really enjoy it actually as well. But one cool thing they do in Rumble is they've actually changed it since this post came out. They have something called Arc Light Surge, which is, I think it's every 2 days in game now. Basically one zone. It used to be every like twice a week. It was 2 zones at a time, but they've changed it to be more regular, but just 1 zone at a time. We'll have an Arc Light Surge. So it's basically you just fight through it once, you get a bunch of gold, which is a really good reward, fantastic reward. And these have fun affixes going on. So it's not just like the Cursed City stuff, which is usually more limitations. Like this one is kind of a limitation. It's like, okay, you can only use Undead and Horde minis in your deck for this one. But it like sort of pre-builds the team. So you have to fight with a pre-built team. That's quite interesting. But you also have things like, ooh, you get like triple the income for this one. Or like there's bonus like sappers, like bomb champions keep spawning in every 10 seconds or something. Like there's really fun things that mix the whole thing up. So really fun affixes. I would love to see something like this come in. So like, you know, every 3 days or something, one of the dungeons is like, oh yeah, you can fight through the levels of the dungeons, and maybe it's got like a set team that you have to use. Maybe fight through it on manual just the once for some really great rewards. Or yeah, again, maybe, I don't know, poisons do triple damage, bombs do triple damage. I don't know, like whatever. Everyone has a shield that blocks the first hit against them. Something cool like that. Just fun affixes. They could be really creative with this. There's a ton of potential. But I think that could be a really cool thing, right? Just every few days, come back in. There's a fun new mode temporarily on in the game. Give some nice rewards. And it's sort of randomized as a system. It'd be a really cool evergreen system. Yeah, to just make old content, again, more fun. Again, you could have limitations. You could have perks. You could have punishments. You can mix all sorts of fun things into it. And I think that'd be a really cool way. Like you could have it be like, oh, like maybe like, oh, while it's on, you can drop mythical gear. Maybe it's unlimited farm. It's like, okay, dragon's on today, whatever. Bombs do 5 times damage. And for this day, like dragon, you can like bigger chance for mythical gear, something like that. Some special drop frenzy from like this chaos surge or whatever. That could be pretty cool to, again, get you going through old content instead of just going in for a tournament, or whatever. It'd be like a more fun way to do it that mixes up the gameplay. So there you go. Those are the 7 things that I would like to see. And the big one I haven't mentioned, I think people will mention, will be reducing time requirements in the game. That's always a thing. Maybe you might be, maybe silver as well could be something that you guys want to see more of. I say they're the 2 big ones that I didn't really include in my main list. Yeah, time requirements and silver costs in the game. But let me know, what do you want to see? Do you agree with my list? Is there anything I've left out or anything I put in that you thought was great? I'm curious to hear. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. We'll see what comes true for 2024. I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of pretty cool stuff. Like I was pretty impressed by, honestly, the implementation of like the chaos dust and stuff and the re-rolling for Ascension. Like that to me actually got me pretty excited. They did it better than I thought they would. So that's been pretty cool. Again, there's some improvements could be made to it for sure, but they did it better than I thought that they would. So yeah, that's left me feeling pretty positive right now. So we'll see. Thanks for watching though. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.